Hi everyone. In this lesson we're going to be setting up the metal panel material for the underside of our building. So I've just turned off some of the layers that we don't need right now, so we can just focus on these pieces of geometry. Actually, I'm going to work on this upper level first, so I'm just going to hide this lower level and hide some of these other things. Okay, so right now this top level is kind of rotated at a weird angle. So I'm just going to rotate this back to 0, and that'll make it a little bit easier to work on. And the first thing we want to do is just create a basic brushed metal material. So I've already gone ahead and done that. Basically it's just using this brushed JPEG image, and this is being mapped into the diffuse color, into the reflection color, also into the reflection glossiness, and also into the bump map channel with the multiplier set to 0.1. Okay, so let's apply this material to this bottom piece of geometry. And if you don't see anything, it's because it needs to be UV mapped. So let's just do planar mapping with the Z axis, and we'll make sure that this option to keep the width height ratio is checked. Click project. Okay, this looks pretty good, but it's gonna be stretching kind of strangely on this face here. So let's just select this face separately and go back to planar mapping again. We'll change to the Y axis and click apply, close. And there we go. But I want to rotate this 90 degrees, or rather rotate it back to 0. So let's do that. And now the direction of this texture is continuing onto this face here. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be our base texture, or our base material for this. But now we need to make the actual panels. And this is really basic geometry, so actually you could just model them in here and it'll probably look better. But I just want to show you how to do this using some of the different material options. So first let's just make a grid. You just type in grid and then you can click on this here. And then let's just make a basic Lambert material. And then we'll plug this grid into the color. And then we'll apply this new Lambert material to this under surface here. So I want to use this grid to define where our panels are. And right now you can see it's kind of blurry, which is going to be a problem, especially once we start scaling this grid. So if you have the grid selected and you go to the 2D place texture node, you can start adjusting the repeat UV, so you can sort of start scaling it. But it's kind of hard to see here, so what we can do is change our display port to viewport 2.0, and then it'll be nice and sharp and we can see what's going on with it. So I only want this grid to run in one direction, so I'm going to set the U width to 0 and then make the V width quite a bit smaller, probably something like 0.01 is good. And then I'm just going to adjust the spacing here to something that I think looks good. So maybe something like that, 17. Okay. So now we can use this grid as a bump map in our material. But since we've already filled in the bump map slot in here, we need to create something else, which is a V-Ray bump material. So if we type in V-Ray bump material, just select this. This basically lets you add on another bump map on top of an existing material. So we'll take this base material and drag it into the base material slot. And then we'll take this grid that we just created and plug this into the map slot. And then because we have the white here is what we want to actually be recessed, we need to make this a negative value. I'm going to set this to -5. And then this delta scale, sometimes I like to play with this, making it a little bit smaller. That seems to make the bump be defined a little bit sharper. So something like 0.25. Okay, and then next I want to create a V-Ray blend material. We'll grab one of these, and then we'll put that new V-Ray bump material into the base. And then I want to actually create a new material. This will be for the gaps between the panels. So just so I can see it clearly, I'm just going to make it some really bright color first. And drag that into the coat 0. And then take this grid and drag it into the blend amount. And that way, basically we'll have this V-Ray metal bump material as the base, and then the gap between all the panels will be this other newly created material. And I'll just change this back to just a dark gray now. And then we can apply this new V-Ray blend material. Let's rename this metal panels. We can apply that to this geometry here. And then you'll notice I probably want to adjust the spacing of this this brush metal texture a little bit. So if we click on its 2D texture place node, we can adjust this value here so that it repeats a little bit more. And then to get it to display correctly in here, you can go into the UV texture editor and go to textures, and then select this brushed JPEG. Alright, so something like that looks like it'll work, I think. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing now to the lower building, and I'm just going to pause the video while I do that, and then I'm going to render it out and we can see how everything looks. Okay, so I just had to increase the resolution up to sort of the final image size just so we can see what's going on here with these materials, but I think it turned out pretty nicely. You can see the different textures in here, and you can see the lines for the panels also up here. So it seems to be a good way to do this if for some reason you can't actually model the panels, and in this case it would probably be a little bit better to actually model them, but I think it's still a good technique to know for certain situations. So I think that pretty much takes care of it for all the unusual materials that are in here. Everything else is just really standard stuff. So I'm going to go through and finish applying materials and textures to everything else in the scene. And then in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to create some grass over here in the sidewalk using the V-Ray fur option.